How's everybody doing today? So we're at that point of the week here that we actually get to enjoy the weekend and get to do nothing, right? That's not true. We all have something to do this weekend. We're probably all working, and I wish we could take the entire weekend off, but it never works out that way. Hi to Heidi right there in the chat. Good to see you. I know, competing with Nick again. What am I, crazy? Why do I go live when he's going live? That's just insanity. Made simple. Rob Cooper, good to see you. Good to see you, pal. And Eric Waite, Whiskey Studies, sorry. Yeah, good to see you too, my friend. We've got a couple of whiskey. What else is going on? Architectural Sheet Metal, good to see you. Whiskey Lover Society. Are we having a Whiskey Love Fest here on the stream today? Because I'm in. Count me in. It's the weekend. Today I wanted to just open the chat up a bit to talk about some of the video editing techniques and things and questions that you guys might have. A lot of times I'm very specific about what I want to show you, and I always try to have opportunities in certain streams where I can field some questions for you. Sometimes I get asked specific Filmora questions. Sometimes I get asked more video editing technique and style questions, which are always my favorite. I love it when it's any type of content. You know, it doesn't matter which video editing software you're using, because that's how I think of things. I'm like, just show me the technique, because at the end of the day, let me see, I'm just hitting a couple buttons here, make sure things are looking good. I'm always trying to figure out how to do things, and I never want to be limited by one piece of software. So I'm a big fan of questions that lend themselves to things that makes sense on any platform, right? Like, here's a great question, by the way, from Whiskey Lover Society. I'd like to learn how to add talking points to Filmora as I talk, so the words get added as bullet points. It's a great point. That's a great question. So these are really some simple things that you can do that are basically text overlays. And a lot of that is just timing. Let me see if I can share a screen in here somewhere. Let me bring this up. Okay. So specifically to your question, my friend, Whiskey Lover Society, let me see if I can add this to the stream. There we go. I'm going to pull your question out of the way. So something like this. I'm using Filmora X10, 10X today. I use it a lot. It's usually Movavi or Filmora are my two go-tos for just creating quick content. But something like this, if you were doing a tutorial or something, here's a piece of stock footage of me yapping on about something. You like my shirt? I'm just here for the food. I need one, Eric, I need one that says I'm just here for the whiskey. So if you're talking and look at it, it even looks like I'm making a point. I'm like, well, this hand. So if you make a point, you might want to say right here, I want something to happen. Now there's different ways to do this. Let me go full screen so you can see a little better, and let me turn off the ticker tape branding so that it is not showing over this. And let me get rid of the taskbar while I'm at it. Hold on one second. Let's get rid of the taskbar. Okay, there. Did that do it? Is the taskbar gone? Is it still showing? Come on. I want you to show. One. Let's go full screen. There you go. So, so one of the things we want to think about is no matter what's going on in your main track, you always have the option in any video editing software, but I'll do this with Filmora 10 today, to add text on top. And if you look in the upper left, that would be your titles tab. And there's a million ways to do it. If you look on the left, it's got 276 different options, custom, lower thirds, you name it. But really simple things that you can do is a lot of times I'll use this search bar right here that's just under the export window. I like the default title. I don't even have to finish typing it. And the default title in Filmora is just a track that has no motion. It's got nothing special. It's just text, right? Just centered text. So if you're playing your video and that popped up, it would just, let me make sure I'm not hearing anything here. Let me just mute that. That this would just come along, and when the time it came to that, it would just pop up the text. And now anything, as you know, I think I've taught you guys, anything that you click on down in your timeline, let's click on the titles track, will activate, double left click, and you see how it activates it and covers it with this sort of a racetrack dotted line. That gives you the ability to move things around. And Filmora is really cool because they give you these lines. See that vertical line tells you, okay, this is centered left and right. And now it's centered up and down. So now you've got the perfect cross-haired center. You know your text is in the middle. And so in here, what you would do is if you were doing a bullet point thing, and there's different ways to do this. Like if you wanted to mention things were happening, you could say, you can actually do a bullet point. I'll just do it with an asterisk for now from my keyboard. but I'll go like whoops, let me actually hit an asterisk if I can. Shift, where are you? There you go. Nope, I'm not finding it. Where is it? My eyes are terrible this morning. There you are. Remember, well, let me just put important point. I'm making an important point here. And what you can do is take that and you can put it wherever you want on your screen. Let's say, oh, while I'm talking, I want to make this important point that's going to pop up here, right? So that's my text that I might go, oh, I'm talking about this. Let me get this stretched. I'm talking about this thing. And right when I get to here, this important point, bam, comes up. I need to talk about that. And we're making that thing happen. Now, if you wanted to list many things that might be happening, what you could do is your title track that's in your timeline, you can split it. This is a trick I think sometimes people forget you can do. Right here, if I just split that, I'm splitting that title track. So all I did, and the reason I'm splitting it is I want to add to it. So I want everything before this section to remain unchanged, that single important point, but I want it at this point to do something different. So I can grab that second half, go up into the upper left, and I can do a similar thing. You know, important, if I can spell, let me put a space and keep it even. Important point number 2, right? Let's say the first one was important point number. I'm so good at numbering. Was important point, where's number? Number 1. I can't, man, I am just blind as a bat today. I think I need a bigger keyboard or bigger reading glasses. So now what happens is here, right? And the other thing you have to consider too is every time you add text and your window's shrunken down, here's another thing you should think about. When you shrink the window, it shrinks the text. So if you're doing, you're better off if you want something to not change sizes, make sure that your text is a specific font size. If you look up here in the drop down, let's set it for something small, like 16, okay? That might be a little too small. Let's go to maybe up to 20. Okay, 20. I don't even like that. I'm just going to keep arguing until I get to where I want. 28. That's the one I like. Thing that Filmora does is it'll keep the text the same size until the window gets small enough that it starts shrinking it. You see what happened? So I can keep expanding it. It won't make the text any bigger because I've limited it up in the left to not get any bigger than 28 point Batal medium. So it'll only shrink when I shrink the box smaller than it will allow for the 28 point. So I'd probably start by doing something like this and going, oh, that's where I want this to be. Here's my box. Let me just do this really quickly. I'll start with this one. I'll split that here one more time just to give you an idea of what I'm doing. Hopefully this makes sense. And let me go to the first part and eliminate the first half. So now what I've got is I make that first point, boom, that pops up, important point number 1. And then a little later on, I've split it and boom, important point number 2 comes into play, right? So then maybe over here, I'm making another point. I can lock that other track. I don't need to split the main footage. But let me split the text track again. And then maybe at this point, I go, oh, I need to do important point number 3. But before I do that, I have to make sure the height's good. This is one of those things you learn playing around with it to make sure that everything gives you enough room. I probably, see, here's a learning curve. Like, I don't usually do these ones. So what I would probably do, let me try this one more time. Knowing that I'm going to put a whole bunch of points in the same thing, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start this text by adding a bunch of spaces underneath. See what I'm doing in the upper left? I'm putting a bunch of returns. And what that does is it expands the box and allows me to go, oh, you're going to add more points later on. And it won't change this layout for me. So that when I go important point number 1, split it. This is the only one I want, number 1. Let me delete that in the upper left. Is this making sense? So there's important point number 1. Here's important point number 2. And then you could split and go, important point number 3, ... And then keep adding it. So as the different things happen, it just adds it in there. But there's a million ways to do that. You could do that as separate text layers. I'm a fan of doing things as continuous, as much as it can be continuous as possible. And there's not one right way to do something. But the text box, I think a lot of times people forget all of the things you can do with text. It's really simple to add more text in or split it and and have it do different things, or add things like dissolve. If you were here and you're like, well, that looks great, Daniel, but I don't want it to just pop up like that. It just jumps on too hard. You can do simple things like go up into your transitions tab, grab a dissolve transition, put it at the beginning. And then what would happen is when that came in, it would kind of slowly fade in, right? You can adjust that by left clicking and holding to make the dissolve as long as you want. So now it slowly fades in. I don't know why you'd want text to fade in that slowly, but that's one way to do it, to do those important points. Another way you could do it is to use lower thirds. So in the titles tab, on the upper left, let me see if I can go bigger screen. Upper left, you can see the Filmora has built-in lower thirds. Right now, it's looking for default because I still have something in the search window, so I need to clear that. And now it'll give me all the options. So you could grab like any lower third. Let's say it's this one here. Bring that down into the timeline. There's your lower third. And as the video's playing along, bam, this pops out with something happening. So you can click on that and decide if you want it to be important. I cannot spell. Point. The thing you do have to watch out for is sometimes like this, you can see that I have to make sure that it's aligned properly because this has a few different elements. It has this little colored box here. And then I want the text to come just next to it like that. So that would be, okay, there's my important point that pops out like, oh, there it is. There's the important point. I probably wouldn't have it go over my shirt like that because it kind of gets hard to read. But that's easy ways to start adding things on and making things happen, you know, just adding text. Hey, I appreciate that, Epic Desk, buying me a coffee, Brother. Thanks for all the knowledge. Hey, I appreciate the super chat, and I appreciate you guys hanging out and wanting to learn. I've said this a bunch of times. The more I can help creators do well on the platform, I think the better we all are in terms of growing YouTube and being successful. Some people like to, my specific channel really is trying to help people make better content specifically to put on YouTube and grow their channels. But I got a lot of people out there that are trying to make a living in certain countries. They're trying to be wedding videographers. They're trying to work for other companies. So sometimes just knowing how to do things for a client can be super important. And most of the time, clients don't want big special effects. They just want good-looking footage. They want a nice, clean edit, and they want it to feel smooth. So those are the things I tend to focus on. Let me see. Yeah, hit that like button. Listen to Paul. Mr. Paul Peck, ladies and gentlemen. He would not steer you wrong. That like button's a good thing. Like, share, subscribe. All of those buttons work really well. Hey, Daniel, can you show us your son? He's not with me today. I've had him on screen a bunch of times. We had a channel together called Extreme Food Reviews. He's getting big. He's about to start driving. I don't even know what to do with that. How do you make a phone voice audio? Phone voice audio, I've talked about this before. This is actually isn't too tricky. If you take any type of audio file, is that a joke? Is that a audio joke? What you want to do is, I'm going to use this right here, this locked, this audio attached to this one. So let me unmute it. But let's say this is your, let me just take this out of the way. This is your track that has audio attached, right? So now it's got audio attached, and you're like, well, what do I do with this? Let me see. Hold on a second. I've got this in full screen on my end. All right, so if you say, here's the audio is attached, right? If I double left click on it in the upper left, you'll see the audio tab. You want to go up to this equalizer section and go customize. And the easiest way to make something sound very phone-like is a phone has a very tiny speaker, so what it tends to do is it doesn't do low end really well. So roll off your low end. All of these frequencies down here are low end frequencies, and it doesn't do super high frequencies really well. So roll off your high frequencies, and you're basically making like a rainbow curve on your audio. Push the mids up just a touch, and dial then, and this isn't the perfect setting, but something that looks like that rainbow, you may want to take more lows out, depending on what you recorded with and what your mic source sounds like. And this will give you that phone voice or that old school movie sound or any of those, like, you know, just like a crappy speaker sound. Perfect for doing that type of thing. And then you just hit OK, and then it will, and then you'll get that really, you know, that really phone voice kind of sound. I do it all the time. I'll do it sometimes in the middle of a video, like a simple thing that I'll do is like someone will ask me a question and I'll put the question on screen in a video. Like someone asked me, Daniel, how do you make a certain type of thing? So just to keep the video interesting, instead of me looking at the camera and saying, you know, maybe it was, you know, Speedy Blue Gaming who says, hey, tell me something about a gaming effect, right? And if I wanted to make a video about that, I would say, the other day, Speedy Blue Gaming asked me, and then I would quickly switch the clip and do something like change my own audio and turn it into a phone voice. And then maybe even take the color of I'm just sitting there still in front of my camera talking, but I'll change the audio and I'll even change the color. Sometimes I'll go right to black and white. And what it does is, even though I'm just still talking to the camera, it all of a sudden gives this different feel, like, oh, he's quoting somebody. So he changed the feel of that section. And silly little things like that can really make your production shine, because it's those visual change-ups. Whenever you're doing things, especially on YouTube, and you want to be compelling and you want to keep the audience watching, on a live stream, it's trickier here. Like, I can share screens and I can do these kind of things and I can talk to you. And those are visual change-ups that help keep the stream more interesting. But what it doesn't do, it's, you know, in a pre-recorded, edited video, you want to do things, for YouTube anyhow, you want to do things that keep it visually stimulating, that there are changes that happen that keep the, you know, if the audience member is just getting bored of you droning on, there's a visual change-up. So those visual change-ups are important. Guys like Mr. Beast on YouTube, who drive 40 million views to a video, do that really well. He won't let the video run too long before he switches the camera angle or goes to another cut so that it keeps moving, because he understands that people like a faster pace on YouTube. Sager Vlogs, how to add words beside the person like Adobe We Do. I don't know that specifically. I appreciate the super chat. How to add words beside that person? Do you mean like if they're talking? I think I just showed a bit of that to add words. You can do that a million ways. Let me just see if I can, this may not be exactly what you're asking, but again, understanding the text confines, you can do things like, even in Filmora, like here's a picture of me, right? So if I go to Elements, this is the Elements tab, there will be things, I think is it under the fun one? I'm trying to remember. I don't use these very often. Could be shapes. Let me try doing a search in here under the included. I think it's called a speech bubble or a bubble, thought bubble, maybe bubble. I don't, it's in here somewhere. I'd have to find, I never use this one, but there is a way to do, they do have a talking bubble somewhere. I just don't know what they call it. I think I used it once, but you can get any type of, and I think it's in Elements. Yeah, I think it's in the Elements section. I just have to, I'd have to take a second to find it, and I don't want to bore you, but not emoji, fun. It's one of those where you can add a bubble. And even if you didn't have it in Filmora, you could add it anywhere as an asset. Let me show you a real quick one. Let me do this. If I go to, let me open up Google. I'm going to go to, this is a good place that you guys should hang out, is a place called pixabay.com. It's all free. Everything in here is free to use. So if you said, I need a speech bubble or a talk bubble, you know that, like, you know, like in like a cart in a comic book, when you see someone talking, there's like a bubble that comes out, like a little thing pointing to their mouth. So if you needed that, you'd go like, I can't find it. Let me go to the images, or vector graphics is a good one, because they're usually PNG overlays, and go speech bubble. Let me see if that's what they call it. Maybe I'm just using, there we go. So here's those speech bubbles. And I'll go, oh, look at all these speech bubbles they have right here. Let me do this. See how it's got a checkered background? That's just, it's not that it has a checkered background. That's just one way of just showing you that it's a PNG. So free download. I download this, right? I tell them I'm not a robot. Sometimes I feel like, well, no. I download this, and I now have that speech bubble, right? So, okay, cool. I've just downloaded that asset for free. So now I say I want to, in the media tab, let me go a little bigger here. I want to add, that. I just downloaded it. So let me go to this PC, and in downloads, I will find, where is that speech bubble? And here's that speech bubble, okay? So I put that up here, and I go, oh, there's a speech bubble. If I'm talking and I want to make it look like I'm saying something, I go, perfect. Daniel says, maybe I need to turn that a little or something, but there's a speech bubble, right? So, well, how do I get it to look like I'm talking? Well, then I can do titles, and I could go to a default title. I always start with default. It's just one of my, not lower third though, default here. And let's bring that down into a track above it. So now when I get here, I have this title, right? First problem I have is this color is white, and my speech bubble is white. So let's change that color to black. Okay, now it's black. Now it's readable. Let me shrink it, and let me bring it up here. Let me actually shrink the font too, so it's not going to change if I do something with it. Let's go with a little bigger font. How about 18? Yeah, how about... did this before, didn't we? 32, something. They also have things like a Comic Sans, like a comic book. Let me see. I hate Comic Sans, but for this purposes, it actually would be a good font. Comic Sans, that one? Yeah, it looks like comic book type thing, right? Let me shrink that just a hair. It's a little too big. Let me go 22. Okay, your title here. So let's say Daniel wants, I mean, I don't have to capitalize, wants to tell us something very important. Okay, let me, as the box, we talked about this box, right? That got smaller. That got a little weird. Let me reshape it to fit. Let's go a hair bigger on this size so it fits a little better. We'll go up to about there. Okay, so Daniel wants to tell us something really important. Now, a cool trick you could do, like, if that just showed up, it would be like, oh, it's just there, right? So now what it feels like is it just fell on top of you. So what you'd want to think about is, well, how do I do something that doesn't feel like it just exploded onto me? And you go, okay, well, let me start here. First of all, on the default text title, I can put an animation. I think they have it up in the upper left tab here now, animation. Let me see, they have, you see up here on the left, typewriter? That's a kind of a cool trick. If you put that on, see how it types? See how, like, if I do this, it actually will kind of type out the words. And if you click on the advanced tab, which I now need to bring over from the other window, here it is, you can control the speed. This right here, see where it's dark and then it's lighter purple? You can left click hold on this bar and move it. And that's the speed of how quickly it's applying that effect, right? So see, now you can see the speed slow down. If I wanted it super slow to show up super slow, I'd stretch that out. Now see how slowly it types. So you can get your pacing down. You go, perfect, that's what I wanted it to do. Now maybe I also wanted, let me click on the speech bubble itself, and I didn't want that to just pop up. Maybe I wanted that, and see if I can do an animation on that. Maybe I can have that, let me do a preset. Let me have that like explode out. Is there, I think there's a boom or something, right? Let me see if I can find it. Some of these they've had and they've gotten, oh, it's boom, right? Hold on a second, it's right here, boom. So what that does is it takes that text bubble and it should explode it, boom. But I don't want the text to start that early, so let's go like that. Let's stretch this out a little bit like that. And now when I'm talking, boom, Daniel wants to tell us something very important, okay? And then, boom, the thing goes away. And you can just get the timing right, like stretch the text a little bit so that as that bubble starts to move and go zoom and get smaller, the text falls away. So a lot of that is just trying to get the timing right. There you go. Now looks like I'm telling you something important and boom, that goes away. So really simple things. I'm not exactly sure if that's specifically what you wanted, but trying to learn how to take some of the things that are right there. Like, you know how to add images. So I added a speech bubble. You know how to add text. So I added text. You know how to add animations to some of the stuff because Filmora is really good at doing preset animations. So putting those together and stacking them and thinking about what do I want this to look like? The most important thing off the top of your head for anything you're doing is to think about what it is you see in your head. Think about what you see and then go, okay, let me break that down and then figure out how to do that, right? Figure out how to slowly make that happen. How to make cinematic intro in Filmora. I've got 4 or 5 videos on my channel all about that. Making intros, making things look cinematic. It's not something I could do right here for you, pal, because that would be an entire couple of hours of building something. But go to my channel and use the search tab and look up cinematic. Just type the word cinematic in. You'll get hit with all kinds of cinematic stuff or intro. I have right on my main page, I've got a big kind of a cinematic intro with my name and see-through text. It's all right there. Let me see. Let me check some of these. I hope that answered your question, my friend. Saksham asked, hey Daniel, how to add effects if making movie main titles? I don't know if I completely understand that. How to add effects? I'm not sure I understand. One of the things I want to talk to you guys about is know the limitations of the software you're using. I'm assuming you're asking Filmora questions. If Filmora doesn't, Filmora has all its preset animations and things. There are some things you can do to make things look cooler. I did a two-part tutorial years ago that was all about how to recreate the Marvel intro using Filmora. Then it was long. It took 2 long videos to explain the whole thing because there was a ton of layers. It's a great 2-part series to watch that just walk through the idea of how to incorporate all of the Filmora features in ways that you may not have thought how to use them before. But when it comes to text and stuff, it's just a matter of making sure that you know what the limitations of the software, because if you want realistically, here's the funny thing. Movie main titles, like if you watch most movies, the titles are really simple. They just kind of pop up and they go away. So anytime you add text, period, to anything you're working on, what you can do is, let me just see if I can pull this up here. If you're doing anything, any of your titles, if you look at, oh, there's, now I find the thought bubble. Oh, there it is. Now it's here. Now I found it. Now I found the thought bubble all that time later, right? It was right here. I just had to look in the right spot. Here's another way to add clearly. Let me see. This is a, they have it preset. See, I'm doing it the hard way, but you can clearly, like do one of these things. They have the thought bubble thing, and this comes right inside of, Filmora. So let me show you where I just found this, by the way. I knew it was in here somewhere. It's under the titles. Okay, I should have known that. So they put it under titles, included thought bubble, burst, things like that. You know, you can, this is not in the right placement for me, but you can see what's going on there. Filmora has a lot of these things built in. Typically, if you just want to create titles or things like that, just find a text option that works if you're using Filmora. If there isn't something in Filmora, if it doesn't do the text options you're really looking for, consider a different software, because some people are going to want to do certain things with your software that are beyond the scope of Filmora. The one thing I would give you advice, period, across the board is don't get so caught up in the edit that you lose track of what you're really trying to do. I think sometimes people are like, I need this super fancy text. That's what's going to make my video look great. No, you don't. You just need a clean, effective looking text, you know, because people are going to watch your videos because they're interested in it. So a cleaner text is better than something super fancy and explosive. A lot of times I'll do things like this, my man. Let me go full screen and pull this out. I think a lot of people forget that when you add a title track to something, let me do this and let me change the font to something more basic. Simple, basic Arial fonts are nice. Let me turn the color to white. Let me do this. Is that white? Nope, that's gray. Hold on one second. I'm going to go here. Yeah, let me make sure I got the font color correct. Give me 1 second here. More. I want to go pure white. Okay. So here's like just a simple, 1 second. 1 second, I got two screens going. Okay, so here I've got this text in white now. Let's bring the font size up a little bit so it's bigger. And let's just use like a single thing. If you're adding something over your, your presentation in some way, some kind of text, a simple font works really well a lot of times. You don't have to do anything too special. You're just trying to get that to do what you need it to. Don't be afraid to do things like if you're using a heavier font, something like, I'm a big fan of Impact. I use Impact a lot. I don't know what you guys like, but that's one of the fonts that I tend to like. So if I'm using Impact and there's Daniel in Impact font, let's go even bigger with it. If it's down here, remember that you don't have to keep everything full. You don't have to keep it like full color. Down below, you'll see there's things like the spacing. You can increase the spacing. 3, that spreads the letters out, right? Because it defaults to 0, but you can spread it out if you go, that's a little too close. I want them a little farther apart. The line spacing is the spacing in between. But you can do things like you can rotate it a bit and do those kind of things right here. This is your total scale. Let me reset. I'm going to do 100%. So you can change the scaling in there. 1 second. Let me reset. Okay, reset that scale. But you can also do things like, let me make sure we got the font as high as I can get it. I want it big. I scaled it down a little. You can also do things like taking down the compositing. So this tab right here, like everyone thinks like, oh, I got to put white text on. Maybe white's too much. Maybe you just go, oh, let me dial it back so that it's a little see-through. I think one of the coolest things that you can do when you're trying to make a cool text, a cool font, something that really pops, is to let it be a little transparent, and it has a much cooler cinematic-esque professional feel, like a slow fade in and a slow fade out. That's me just dropping a dissolve on each end of this and shrinking it down. So you might go right here, I'm just talking, right? And I go, oh, I just want to have this text like fade in. Well, it's got the animation on it. Let me turn the animation off. So it should be just direct. So it should come in, woof. And then it's just kind of transparent. It hangs there, and then it just dissolves away. Simple things like that can make things feel a lot more like the things you see in movies and when on television, because they're not putting super heavy, bright font that just smashes in and goes away. They're usually trying to dial it back a bit. They're trying to make it sure it doesn't overpower too much. They're using simple things like dissolves. I think dissolve is the most important transition out there that you can use. If there was one transition that you should master, is all the different ways you can use dissolve. I'm going to be at the Filmora Fest 21 presentation. It's a 3-day event coming up the 28th, 29th, and 30th, he said. Trying to remember. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see what the event is. My channel manager will know. Filmora Fest. Let me see if I can find it. Filmora Fest 2021. Here it is. Yeah, it's the 28th through the 30th of June, right? And the 3-day event, the second day event, day 2, I'm a featured speaker on this day. This is going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of good speakers there. They're giving away prizes or doing all kinds. Hey, I know that handsome fella. There's giving away all kinds of stuff that's going on over the 3-day event. It's going to be a lot of fun. And there I'm going to try to do a presentation that talks about some of these things of just simplifying, being able to create things that you didn't, use Filmora in a way that you hadn't thought about using it. And I think dissolve effect is one of those things that people just go, oh, it's a dissolve. I know what that is. But I use it probably 100 different ways in any given project, to go to fade to black, to fade in from a color, to have text slowly come on screen, to change the look of something from color to black and white. If I had a scene that was like, I want to create something that was black and white, and then I wanted to feel that all of a sudden like the whole thing just slowly turns into a colorized piece of video from black and white. Dissolve is the kind of tool that does all those things, and I think you have to understand how those things work and how to apply them. That's the most important thing. How to add a night effect on video. Yeah, you know what? I have that's a great question, Arjun. I have a video that's if you look up free LUTs in Filmora on YouTube. I actually gave away some free LUTs, and there's one that I added that was basically a blue light filter that you can take something like this, and it turns the look of the thing to feel like night, because most times in movies, if you've ever seen, they just darken up the footage a lot and they sort of add a blue overcast to the thing, and it makes it look just like that. It gives you that night look. So let me see how I can actually show you which video it is really quickly. Let me go over here. Let me go to YouTube, and I'll find you the video really quickly. Let me show you. Let's go here. So if you typed into the search bar free LUTs film, oh, it already started finding it on me. Filmora LUT installation, is that the one? Yeah, right there. Free LUT pack. This is me. The one with my face is me. If you click on that, I did this one right here. I actually showed how to, let me quiet it down, but I showed how to do a few things. I explained what a LUT is. And then I did, let me see. There was a couple I did. So there's one I gave away that made everything go to an old school black and white. And then there was another one that I did called the naturalizer. And then the last one was good night. And see, immediately made everything look dark, like I was at, somewhere in the nighttime. And it's all about just trying to color grade something so that it goes from a perfectly bright situation to something that that feels more like night, So that's important. I'm so busy chatting here that I'm missing some super chats. My channel manager is advising me, pay attention. I apologize. Sometimes I get lost in this. So let me see. There's one super chat right here. Segar Vlog says, which is the best, Filmora or DaVinci Resolve for a YouTuber? I will tell you that Filmora is easier to use and it has less of a system requirement. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. And DaVinci has more features and they have a free version. And the free version is completely free, no watermark, nothing like that. And it's got a ton of features. They have a studio version that has all the features. That's about $300, $299, I think, which is fantastic. It's all the software you'll ever need, period. But I would say if you have a strong computer, you have to have a really strong computer to run DaVinci. And if you're not afraid of a steep learning curve, meaning it's not going to be easy, you're going to have to spend a lot of time learning. There's 7 or 8 different screens in DaVinci. Then it's not like Filmora, what's one main screen. They break up into like 7 different sections. But both of them have free trials. Like Filmora has the watermark, so you can try it and see if you like it. But it's super easy. Everything's nice and easy to use. And then the DaVinci has a completely free version, and then if you dig it and you want the extra features, but the free version has a ton of features. If you want the extra features, you can pay for the lifetime license. GPU Excel on or no? Background render on or no? Would love to see your preferences. Small tip for you. Oh, that's a very nice tip, though. Thank you very much, KLC Lawn and Landscaping. When it comes to, let me get rid of this screen. When it comes to how I set my stuff, KLC Lawn and Landscaping, I don't tend to put on background render because if I notice I've got too many tracks going or something that's super high 4K and I'm using a lot of high stuff that's compressed to H.264, so now Filmora has to read the compression and deal with 4K, things like that. Yeah, I'll just render it. If I notice it's slowing down, I'll render the project. GPU acceleration, always, I always leave that on. One thing I would tell you too, let me shrink this down. There's a couple of settings you guys should be aware of if you're Filmora users out there. Up in the upper left, let me, under File, scroll down to Preferences, and then on the Performance tab here, there's a couple things you can do, all right? This is where the background render is. As you can see, I have it off, but enable hardware acceleration, absolutely. What that does is it allows your graphics card to work to its highest potential, so it's not struggling. I always leave the hardware acceleration on for both rendering and playback and for the video decoding. Decoding is when it's trying to figure out the different codecs that your content's been filmed in. So I leave that on background render now because I don't need it randomly starting a render if I have a really big project and waste a few minutes in rendering waiting for it. I usually don't delete my project files because I pull them up a lot. I don't want to have to re-render them, but if you find, sometimes people have this happen where all of a sudden they'll get a notification that there's no more storage for background for render files. If you come here and you click clean, this will delete all of the render files that are stored. So that's super important, KLC. The other thing I would tell you is here, see, I leave proxy files off. If you have a slower computer, turn proxy files on and then set the default for anything under the lowest setting. Anything 1280, that's 720p. Anything 720p or higher than 720p, it'll automatically create proxy files. And what that is instead of using these high resolution, higher information files in your project, it'll use compressed proxy files that are low data. Now it'll look a little fuzzier. It won't be quite as crisp in the preview. But what it'll do is it'll allow you to work with much smaller files, and then when you're done editing and you hit export, it automatically switches to the higher performance, higher resolution files for the export. But what it means is you're not fighting, if you have a slower computer, you're not fighting to work with these really heavy information files along the way. And the same thing, you can clean your proxy files by clicking here and it'll get rid of any proxy files that you may have created along the way, opening up some space. This is one of the things I talk to people about. Sometimes people say, I'm having problems with it lagging. Make sure you're using proxy files. Make sure you render. Make sure you're using GPU acceleration. I tell people this, and this is the thing they ignore every time I tell them. Make sure that your computer significantly exceeds the minimum system requirements, because if it doesn't, you're going to lag. You're going to have issues. I see people who have just barely the minimum system requirements, and they're like, Filmora keeps crashing. And they go to my videos where it talks about the tips of how to make sure that your stuff's not crashing. And the very first tip is make sure that your computer significantly exceeds the minimum system requirements. Not just meets them, significantly exceeds them. And they look and they go, oh, well, I'm not buying a new computer, so I'm going to ignore that tip. It's like, well, that's step number one. If you can't drive a car with flat tires, right? You know what I mean? You got to make sure everything works the way it's supposed to work to begin with, or all the other problems you have, there is no special button to push that will make Filmora or Vinci or Adobe work on your slower, older computer better. There's things that can help it run smoother, but it won't. If you're really close to that minimum system requirements, you're just going to have a really, really tricky time trying to have any video editing software perform for you the way you want it to. All right, so really keep that in mind. Let's see. I'm just trying to scroll through some of this. Let's see. I'm making sure I didn't miss any super chats along the way, which I'm sure I did. This is why my channel manager's always on top of me, like, "Hey, knucklehead, can we add a glitch effect on text?" Yeah, you can, absolutely. They even have I think they have one built in there. What I would tell you is I've got I've got a couple of videos on my channel. Just go to there, and I did a whole glitch effect with a person. I made the whole person, the body, everything glitch out. So just go to my channel and type glitch into my channel search bar. When I say that, I hope, do you guys know what I mean when I say go to my channel and search my channel? If you're on my channel, let me pull this up over here. Let me go to my channel. So here's my channel, right? And if you click on, see that little magnifying glass right under the, it would be under the, for you, like the subscribe button. Click on that, and now you're not searching all of YouTube, you're just searching my channel. So if you type in glitch, if you can spell glitch, which I'm having trouble spelling everything today, you'll see glitch effect right here, right? And I did it with a whole guy. I did it with his whole body. Now, if you watch this, see this? His whole body glitches. But you can do that with text, you can do it with whatever. So I showed how to do that kind of a glitch effect. But there are some built-in glitch effects that add like kind of a little stutter and things that are built into Filmora. It's not as advanced as that. I'm always trying to get things to really get, you know, super crazy. I like heavy glitch effects. Look kind of cool. But they'll do, anytime you're looking for anything, that's what I mean by searching my channel. Go to the main page. There's a search bar. Type in the word you're looking for, and more than likely you'll find, because I've got well over 100 tutorials on all kinds of things. It's the easiest way to find something that if I've done a video on it or not. What's going on? Wanted Mobile Gaming, good to see you, my friend. Let me see. I'm just trying to, let me see some of these questions. See, Daniel, can you change the speed of the clip by holding Control and drag the clip end with the mouse? The speed in Filmora, not that I'm aware of. I could be wrong. I don't know that I've ever tried it. Let me do this. Let me get rid of this. No, not the speed. So let me look at exactly what you're asking. Sometimes I find things out that that I didn't know. Maybe let me cut this down to nothing, and let's cut a chunk out here, right? So we're not using this huge clip here. I do know that I don't like using the clip bar. I like using the keyboard for shortcuts. Okay, so you're asking me if I can change the clip by dragging with the mouse? No. You mean like this? No. All that's going to do is, if there's more information here. This is one of the things I excuse me. One of the things I think people forget, this is all non-linear editing or non-destructive editing, which means if I take this clip, if this is my clip and there's more information, if I drag, it's just going to show what's left of the information. Like, watch this. Let me move that into another track. I'm going to cut this in half, okay? And I'm going to drag this part down. Now, you would think I've just created two halves, but I haven't. I've completely duplicated both of these. If I grab this one down here and stretch it out, it now has all of this information is the same information as up here. And if I grab the top one and grab the left side and drag it, all of the information that is down below is now up top. These are now exact duplicates because it's non-destructive. You're not cutting a chunk out. It's not like a cake where you take a slice out and now that slice is missing. It's almost like you're creating a clone, but you're saying, I'm only going to focus on this part of the clone, but all of the rest of the cloned information is still in that tiny clip, right? So it's always there to access non-destructive editing, where you can just grab it and pull it and stretch it out. If you want to change the time of something, you want to either right-click on it and go up to speed and duration, and this allows you to control this bar here is fast or slower, or you can actually set the length. Like, I want this to only run for, 5 seconds, and it'll automatically make that adjustment so it goes, okay, well, this clip can only be 5 seconds long. Or you can highlight the track you want, and let me see a little bigger. Right here, just above the timeline, see there's it's this one here, the clock, custom speed. It does custom speeds. You can go slow, fast. It does increments. You can get it back to normal, or you can add a freeze frame, or you can reverse it so it plays backwards. So that's all right here. So there's your quick access to speed controls. So that's the fastest way to do any kind of speed change. Is just highlight that clip in Filmora anyway. Stretching it doesn't do that. There are some softwares out there that you can get into you can grab, like the time frame, not Filmora. And if you adjust the clip, it's like a moving slider that will do things like that. But every software is different. So you always want to learn the ins and outs of the software that you're using so that, it does what you want. If you're someone who's constantly changing speeds and doing things like that, you might go like, I don't love Filmora because I use this feature a lot for what I do. and it's harder for me to do it with Filmora than with another software. So I always tell people, find the right tool for the type of content you want to make. Sometimes I get people get all freaked out asking me questions about how to do one thing. And it's like something crazy, like how can I do like a Superman landing? I need to know how to do a Superman landing. I'm like, there's like 9 million versions of this on YouTube. Yeah, but I need to know it. And I'm like, well, how many Superman landing videos you plan on making? You're going to start every video out with you flying in from the sky, crashing to the ground. I think sometimes it's like people get so focused on meeting the thing that they think is important. That's not important. Like a Superman landing isn't going to, make her, and, unless you're making a movie, in which case, if you don't know how to do a Superman landing and you're making a movie, you may want to learn some more skills before you make a movie so that things like that are more readily available to you in your skill set. And I don't know that Filmora is the kind of thing that you'd want to be making movies with anyway. It's more for quick editing kind of stuff, YouTube videos. You can do some work with it. But if you're going to do really super high-end VFX, I'd probably lean towards either DaVinci's okay, Adobe Premiere Pro is pretty good, but probably After Effects is even better. It's a much more VFX type of video editing software. It does high-end, it's built for that, After Effects. Let me just scroll through the chat here. Yes, that's very true. Thanks for mentioning that, Heidi. This stream is actually sponsored by our friends at Spreadshop, as you can see right here. If you guys don't know what Spreadshop is, it's print on demand, which allows you to make all the kind of merch, coffee mugs, t-shirts, backpacks, aprons, pins, stickers, you name it. They pretty much have anything you want, anything you can put your print logo onto, and you can use it to sell merch, even if you're not monetized on YouTube. I love it because it allows me to wear the kind of stuff that I want to wear when I'm live. But you can set up a print-on-demand shop with Spreadshop today, absolutely free. And when they make merch, it doesn't cost you anything. You give them the design you want, they go, okay. And if someone orders that design, they pay for the shirt, they pay for the printing, they pay for the shipping, and you just tell them how much money you want to make on top of their set price, and that's how much they send you back, and that's how you make money. So it's basically like you're bringing them customers with your designs, they do all the work, and you get to share in the profits. One of my favorite companies out there. They're just a great company, and they love getting inside and actually sponsoring content like this that helps creators. We're also sponsored by StreamYard, which is exactly what I'm using to live stream right now. So if any of you guys have not tried live streaming and you want a simple way to live stream, to be able to do things like this, share your screen, put things up, definitely try StreamYard. They're completely free to sign up. You get up to 20 hours a month, I think, in free time. I've never live streamed 20 hours in a month in my life. I'm not Nick Nimmin. He'll do that in one sitting. But both of those sponsors are great. There are links in the description to both to set up your own Spreadshop and start selling merch. And there's links to StreamYard where you can actually start live streaming today. So check both of them out, and I thank them very much for helping us to be able to do this kind of content here on my channel. Got some control issues. My son did that. My son came out the other day with his keyboard, and he had accidentally knocked off the control button. He walked up with the keyboard and put it in my face and says, "Hey, Dad, I think I've lost control." Like he's got dad jokes. Kid's got dad jokes. Gotta love it. Hey Daniel, how are you? What's happened recently? Hope you're doing well. I found a minute to sit here after exams. I will turn to my favorite business, video editing. Ready for summer. I am ready for summer, my man. We started having we had one 90-degree day the other day, and it was like, oh, this is warm weather. I remember this. So yeah, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. It's I love all seasons. I'm in New England, on the New England seacoast, so we get snow, we get rain, we get hot summers, we get all of it. 20 hours a month live streaming on StreamYard. Yeah, really, it's great. If you haven't tried it, absolutely. Heidi just dropped a link down in the right into the chat. Definitely go check out StreamYard. They're fantastic, and definitely check out Spreadshop. I'm going to be doing some more content on my channel about Spreadshop because I think both StreamYard and making learning the live stream and then making your own merch are two things that I need to talk about more to help explain, because some of them are tricky, right? It can be tricky to learn how to do it. So I'll be getting into more depth with that. Play one of those guitars. I never pull them off the wall and play them unless I'm doing music for my my videos. I think I've mentioned this before. Like all the music that plays under my content is always me. Like that's me. That's me. So I that's the only time I play them is in the background, or when I'm making fun of my friends. When I got to reach out to them and try to get them to like do something for me, I'll write a song and send it to them, and it just keeps them on their toes. They're usually, if I can make them laugh, that's when they'll do the silly thing I'm asking. How you doing? Good to see you. Let me see. What's a good bit rate to render videos? Great question. This is what I do. Nico De Cruz. This is what I do for bitrate. When I tend to, what did you say, to render? You mean to like export, right? Is that what you're asking? So what I tend to do is, my settings are, when I go, there's a couple of things you want to pay attention to. Let me go full screen. And I've talked about this before. One, you want to look at the media that you brought in. Like, let's look at this file I'm working with. What a goofy face that is there. What am I doing in that? Look at these poses. In the upper left, right click on your footage, and you can look at the properties. If you click on properties, it'll tell you the properties of this footage, right? So this was filmed in 1080 at it's basically a 60 frames per second. It's just adjusted for flicker. And the bit rate is about 50,000 kbps that I filmed it at. So it's a reasonably high kbps. One of the things you want to understand is anytime you export something or bounce something, every video editing software adds some compression. So it's squashing down the files a bit. So if I were going to take this and I was going to export it, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll decide where I'm going to send this, right? So I name it, I decide where I'm going to save it to. I always export locally. See up on the left, this is locally. Some people try to go right to YouTube. I'm like, I never do that. I don't want to be exporting and uploading at the same time. I want to have a hard copy for myself, and then once I've seen it and I like it, then I upload it to YouTube. Plus, I'm not trying to do exporting and using the internet, uploading all at once. If you have a fail, it just fails. It just puts a lot of stress, especially on a slower computer. So I'll export in the type I want. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll step it up under settings, even though this is 1080. Here's an interesting thing. If you export in UHD, which is 3840 by 2160, it won't change the crop, and it still lists as 4K, and YouTube will think it's 4K, and they'll allocate more bandwidth on the platform because they think it's a 4K video. So it's a great way to have your 1080 look better than someone else's 1080 because YouTube is allocating more bandwidth for the playback. When it comes to bitrate, I tend to go no lower than 80,000 kbps or 100,000 kbps, somewhere in there, 80 or 100,000. Even though this was only recorded at 50,000, but I'm trying to battle the export compression. So I want it as crisp as possible. So I'll do maybe 80 or 100. And then when it comes to the output, whichever you've recorded in 44.1 or 48, and then the bitrate for the audio, I always go the highest, which currently available is 320, and then I send it out. So that's... I don't go good, better, best. I don't pay, because those do like presets to give you an idea and they'll change things. I don't pay attention to those. I do all my presets by myself. I control the resolution, I control the frame rate, I control the bit rate, and I do each one of these by hand, and then I export this. And that usually is, that's usually what I like for an export setting, so that, so that it'll look good. It kind of combats some of the compression, and if I bring it back in, it stays pretty strong. Another question I get a lot of times too is people like, I uploaded my video to YouTube but I know I did it in 1080, but it's only in 480. It's or 420 or whatever the default. I don't even know what their default is. And that's another funny thing is I think people forget. Let me show you the screen. In YouTube, there's two things you have to pay attention to. One, if you're a newer channel, you're not going to get, it's going to take longer for your videos to process. They process in standard definition first on YouTube, and then it goes into processing high definition. And if you're a smaller channel, you don't have priority. So like bigger than me, like mine process pretty quickly. If I upload a video, it's processed in full HD within 5 or 10 minutes. But someone like PewDiePie, big channels, they know those things are going to get a lot of views, so they need to be in high definition quickly because they're going to drive a lot of views, and YouTube is all about making sure that people are satisfied. So smaller channels, they don't allocate as much bandwidth. It takes them a little longer to get in HD. But a lot of times people say to me, I'm watching a video and it's not in the right resolution. Well, one thing you want to think about is you got to make sure that the playback quality, let me see. Let me go full screen here. Make sure when you're using the window, click on HD in desktop, and then you have to make sure, see, I actually I exported this up to 4K, but did you see what it did? It was in HD, it defaulted to 1080, because it says you don't need to see 4K. You have to tell YouTube, yeah, no, I want to see it in full 4K, and then it gives me the full 4K. On mobile, it's like 3 dots that's next to the player. I think it's up in one of the corners. But always make sure that you've got the YouTube player set right, because you might be looking at something that YouTube it's in HD, but it's not playing it back. It's decided, well, we're just going to give it to you in some smaller, look, it'll go all the way down to, it's 480. A lot of times they'll go, we're giving it to you. So you'll upload something and go, why is it so blurry? Not realizing the YouTube player needs to be set for the right playback resolution, okay? So make sure you pay attention to that. Standard def, right? Standard definition. Yeah, see, Heidi's smarter than I am. It is. There's all these different ones. Again, that's YouTube. We're talking about bandwidth, right? YouTube has millions and millions of videos. There's 83. It would take you 83 years to watch just the videos that are uploaded on a single day on YouTube every day. Think about that. So they can't put them all out at the highest bandwidth. They'll try to default to a lower bandwidth. And then because some people don't care, they're watching on their phone, why be pushing it in 4K if it doesn't need to be? So what they'll do is they'll give it in a lower standard definition, unless you go in and say, hey, no, I want to see this in full 4K. Just a smart way to be. Let's see, where are we at? I do. I am the king of, you could stop, because I'm just so weird anyway and goofy, but you can, and I move around a lot. So if you stop any of my videos at any given point, I'm always like, it's pausing my own videos makes me laugh. I'm like, you're an idiot. You look like an idiot. What's this one? I don't use Adobe Premiere Pro, SRV. Go over to Lila, Lila on YouTube, her channel. She does a ton of Adobe Premiere Pro stuff. Ask her any of those questions, because she's great. Her channel is literally my favorite Adobe, and I'll pull it up right here for you. It's Lila. A lot of times Lila from YouTube, if you type that in, you'll find her really easy. This is her right here. And you can see she does a lot of Adobe stuff, Premiere Pro stuff. She's fantastic. She's my favorite Adobe Premiere Pro content creator, and she does it a lot like me. She'll show you some really simple things. She'll show you some advanced stuff. Things like how to do the text behind moving, all the stuff, make holograms. So if you have any Adobe questions, go to her channel. If you have DaVinci questions, go to my pal Jay Lipman with 2 P's. Jay Lipman. He does all DaVinci Resolve, and he does a lot of the same things. He'll show you how to do all these crazy things in DaVinci. So those are my 2 favorites for those kind of questions. Let me see. What is your net speed, Daniel? I don't know. It's not bad. You mean my internet connection speed? That's one of the things I always try to test before I go live. But it's usually pretty strong. I get better down than up, just the way it is in our area. I pay a lot of money for better internet, but does it always work? It depends on. Right now we're running 4 different computers. So you get different. We get different results on how much we're drawing it down. But usually this is an easy way to test. I think I like Ookla the best. Is the best speed test. Let's see what we're running. Let's find out right now. Go. And we'll give it a minute to test here where it's coming out of. I'm usually 800 or 900 down and maybe 40 or so back up, depending on what the strain is. So yeah, they were, you can see, 930 or so down. It's funny out here, internet companies want to give you a lot of stuff down. They think you're just watching a lot of stuff. Me, I'm a live streamer. I'm like, I need more up. I need more up. My up is it looks like it's sitting right now just at about 40. So that's that's pretty good. So you can see my ping is a little high, about 10, not terrible. 946 down, and it looks like a little over 40 back up. There's my speed. So that's what we're doing. And it cost me a lot of money to get even that. It's Comcast. I'm not a huge fan, but I pay the extra money because I had to do these live streams and run a lot of stuff. Did I miss another super chat in here too? My channel manager's just on top of things, and I'm just a mess. Let me see real quick. Still missed. I missed a $10 on our chat. Hold on one second. Let me find this one. There was a. Journey with Jay sent me a $10 super chat. I'm sorry I missed that, my friend. I'm supposed to match my video. Am I supposed to match my video with the media frames the speed, right? Okay, that's what you're asking. I'm sorry about missing that one, Jay. I apologize. Journey with Jay, and I thank you for the super chat, my friend. So what you want to do is if you're matching it, a question I get a lot of times is people will use many different types of frame rates, like different content. Some's at 60, some's at 24. What I would tell you to do is match your frame rate to whatever the highest frame rate of the content in your project. Does that make sense? So if you looked up here and you went, well, this was, let's see, this was the highest one, I believe, on the properties of this. It was 59.9. So yeah, if I went to export, really what I should do is, this is set for 60, but I should probably go down to the 59.9, just so it's the same frame. It doesn't make that much of a difference. But if you're going to go back in and try to edit it later as a bounce, it could make a difference. Like people get wrapped up in frame rate. I find that 60 frames per second filming and exporting gives me a little more crispness. It brings out some of the detail. If I go slower, if I film at 24 and I edit at 24, people are like, oh, that's cinematic. I don't know that it's more cinematic. For me, there's a long conversation we'll have there sometime, but really what it comes down to is it comes down to like just decide what you need to do if you're looking for something super crisp or you're looking for something that doesn't need to be 60 frames per second, so 30 frames per second. So I'm trying. Did I hear Samuel's question wrong? Okay, maybe he was showing me something. So you're saying hold Control and drag. Let me try it. Oh, see, he just taught me something. I didn't know this one. So what Samuel was trying to tell me was, let me undo that. What I just did. Let me kill all that. So what Samuel just taught me something I didn't know. I've never tried this one before. So if you hold Control on your keyboard, all right, so I'm hitting Control, the lowest left key, and then I drag. I didn't know you could do this. It changes the speed by just the drag. I didn't know you could do that. That's a new one. I see. This is how I learned from you guys. So Samuel, thank you very much for that tip. Anyone out there who didn't know that one, like me, we just learned something from. This is why I always say I'm always listening and learning. Great tip, Samuel. I didn't know that. I didn't know that's what you're actually telling me. Hold Control. That's what I said. Knucklehead. You got to hold Control. So that's cool. That's a cool tip. I didn't know you could do that. Interesting. Yeah, you can go right. You can see, and then right at the top, it tells you the speed, either slower or faster. Very cool. Good tip, Samuel. Thank you for that, my friend. That means a lot to find out. I always love finding out new things. You know where your merch is from? Hope it comes to your door. Do you know where your merch is from, Spreadshop, or you just hope it comes to your door? When you order, well, you're asking about just merch is from, well, that's a two-sided question. Spreadshop owns their own print shops. They don't subcontract anything. So they have a European division and they have an American division, so they can ship worldwide. And everything comes right from their factories and wherever you want it sent to. If you say, just like ordering off Amazon, you can either order it yourself, because I order a lot of my own things and sent to me to wear in my videos, because I like to have that on me, and like to have things like, when you want stuff on your mugs and whatever. Sent right to you. If someone else orders it, they just put in there, just like ordering anything online. If they order a shirt from your shop and they go, oh, I want one of Daniel's shirts, they put in their information, pay for it, put in their address, and it ships right to them. So you're completely out of the loop. You're just making money. You're just making designs and making money. I love print on demand. Let's see. Let me see what we're talking about here. I'm just trying to catch up with some of the questions in the chat here. There's a question I get a lot about animating. Show a new trick of animating. Filmora, if you're asking about Filmora, it's not an animation software. I've done one where I showed it how to do it, and everybody went, that's really hard. And I went, yeah, animation's really hard. That's why it's hard. The two best softwares for doing animation, if you want to do like 3D type, like a Disney Pixar type animation, is Blender. It's completely free. It's called open source, which means different people help develop the software. It's wide open. Very hard, very steep learning curve. I've used it. It's very hard, but it's great. You can make like really kind of Disney-esque stuff with it. Very good. And if you want to make more 2D, like cartoon stuff, then you want to use, I suggest Toon Boom Harmony, ToonBoom Harmony. That's a paid software, but it's great. They use it like on Family Guy and stuff, and it's really good. It allows you to make like cartoons. That's where I would I would lean you towards. Get the right tool for the right job. Don't come in and go, I got Filmora, I should be able to make cartoons and Star Wars movies. Like, no. No, you probably want, After Effects are better to make Star Wars-esque movies, and you probably want cartoon editing, video editing software like the two I just mentioned, Toon Boom Harmony or Blender, if you want to do those. There isn't one tool for the job. Even Adobe has After Effects and Premiere Pro. I mean, there's never one tool that does everything. So make sure you understand the type of content you're trying to make, and then try to find the best tool for that content. I'm a YouTube content creator, so most of my stuff I'm using Movavi or Filmora because it does exactly what I need for that type of content. Let me see. I'm just trying to read. Can you make can you make Metabolic Gamer? Can you make an editing video on montages? Yes. I've got my son, and I've been saying this for weeks. My son he's a gamer, and he's been getting me some clips he plays Fortnite and stuff. So he's getting me some clips. I'm going to do an editing montage for gamers, just showing how to do it in Filmora. Because a lot of people ask me that kind of stuff, and I'm not a gamer, but I am a video editor, and I'm like, let me take a shot at it. Let me see if I can do a cool edit with some of my son's video clips. So I'll get to that. I promise that'll be out soon. Pro much better. Is it worth the money? Different feature. It's completely different software. Is Filmora Pro much better? Is it worth the money? Way more features, steeper learning curve, does a lot more. Even things like the motion tracking in Pro is better than the motion tracking in like Filmora X because you can motion track more things. It's not as limited. So yeah, it's a completely different software. People kept asking, make Filmora do more, and it was never designed to be that. It wasn't designed to be Adobe. So they said, well, I know what we'll do is we'll make a different software that has all these more advanced features, and it'll be more expensive. But what they did is they called it they put the word Filmora on it, even though it's completely different software, and that confused people. They thought it's like, oh, if that's Pro, then I must have Amateur. Filmora Amateur. And it's not. It's just made by the same company, but it's completely different software. Can you make an editing video on FIFA matches? No. I should. This is one of the things, I get these questions a lot, and I feel like I say this every week. It's like I teach people how to do the techniques, and then they go, oh, okay, now do it with the content I make. Like, you should be able to take the techniques I talk about and apply it to your edit. That's really what I do here. I teach you technique, and then you need to apply it to your thing. If I teach you how to be a great salesman, you should be able to apply that to whatever sales job you have, right? You can't come back every day like, well, I was a shoe salesman. This week I'm selling automobiles, so I need you to learn all over again. No, these things are all transferable. So if you learn the basics, how to create content, how to edit it, how to use transitions, how to do text overlays, and how to find flow, it doesn't matter what content you make, with the exception of, like I said, if you're trying to make Star Wars heavy video effects stuff, that's a different thing. But if you're doing basic content where you're like, well, I just want to make content about FIFA, or I want to make content about video games or gameplay, or I want to make videos about cooking tutorials, all these things are transferable. You just have to learn the basics of video editing and then apply them to the type of content you're making, right? Let's see. Is graphics card important? Oh, yes. Is graphics card important for editing? Because I have a low-end graphics card for me, and Filmora crashes a lot. My clips don't render fast. The most important things you want to pay attention to is a good processor. I run a Ryzen 9. You want to have a great graphics card because you're looking at video. You're processing video. And that's what graphics are, the things that you're seeing on screen. And when you're applying color correction, color grading, effects to that, when you're using chroma key, that's all being processed through your graphics card. So having a great graphics card is super important. It's also important to have a decent amount of RAM. I won't edit with less than 32 gigabytes of RAM. On my system, I run 64. It's also important to have a lot of free memory on your computer, and I don't mean just RAM. Disk space. People have these computers that have very small hard drives that are like 256 gigabyte or something, and they've got it all filled up with software, and then they try to edit, and they have problems because, like we see, something like Filmora is constantly making render files, proxy files, backups, and that's all information it's storing. So you've got to have at least a good 100 gigabytes of free space. 130 is probably a little better on your system for a nice clean editing experience. So you want to have, anytime you can look at the minimum system requirements, and as high up as you can go past them, the better the experience gets, okay? Because I'm running, I run a Ryzen RTX 6800 XT. It's one of their newest cards, and it's super fast. So my experience is pretty good. I can live stream. I can pull up an editing window at the same time. I can move around here in the edit, so things go good. If I want to render something, you know, I can actually sit here, be live streaming, have something running, render a project. It renders pretty quickly, even though I just completely changed the speed of this long clip. So those are the things that all affects it. So the stronger your computer, the better experience you're going to have, not just with Filmora, but with any editing software. Okay, so pay attention to that. Listen, we've been going for a little over an hour here. I just want to thank you guys for hanging out. I'm going to be doing these every week. So that we can pick up where we left off. Some of these will be more specific, and some of them will be less specific. But I'll always be taking questions from you guys and working on things. If there's anything you want to ask me that we didn't talk about here today, you're always welcome to put your questions down in the comments section of this afterwards, and I'll come back in and I'll talk to you about those kind of things or point you in the right direction if I have a specific video that can help you on something you're trying to find. All right. So you guys try to enjoy the rest of your weekend. It's been great hanging out. Thank you for all the great questions, and thank you for the super chats. Thank you to Spreadshop and to StreamYard for sponsoring the content we have here today. And I will see you guys all next week. All right. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.